Should your patients' families never trust you? Dr. Houston, never want you to give someone 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl? What about 2,000 micrograms?
We are going to begin in Ohio. A doctor there has been charged with murder in the overdose deaths of 25 patients. Authorities say the deaths were intentional. The victims were between 37 and 85 years old. They died from excessive doses of painkillers. That's according to hospital officials. Here's Dean Reynolds.
Dr. Hazel, what do you say to your patients' families?
First, critical care doctor William Usel lost his job, then his right to practice medicine, and now he could lose his freedom. Today at his arraignment, his coat and tie were replaced with handcuffs and a jailhouse jumpsuit, in keeping with someone who stands accused of murdering 25 of his own patients, one of the biggest homicide cases in U.S. history. Prosecutors said the 43-year-old doctor knowingly ordered potentially lethal doses of the painkiller fentanyl for those patients with no other purpose than to hasten their deaths. His arrest followed a 6-month criminal investigation. Tom Quinlan is the Columbus chief of police.
This breach of a doctor's oath is vile and worthy of today's actions, and that begins the process of holding this accused killer criminally accountable.
15 to life as to each count.
Investigators found Usel ordered doses that were 10, 20, and even 40 times more than deemed appropriate, often after telling a family member their seriously ill loved one was actually brain dead. Helen Young's husband of 46 years died in Usel's care.
He said, Mr. Young's kidneys are gone. His lungs are gone. He's brain dead. I said, how did all that happen at once? I said, how in the world did that happen?
Officials say it's unclear what Usel's motive may have been. His attorney said he was trying to ease his patients' pain, not kill them. But if convicted, he could face 15 years to life on each one of the 25 counts. David?
Dean Reynolds with an incredible story from Chicago tonight. Thank you, Dean.
Mr. Usel is represented by attorney Richard Blake from Cleveland, who's here on his behalf. The Franklin County Grand Jury filed and returned a 25-count indictment against Dr. Usel for murder. Each of those counts allege that violation of Ohio law that carries a penalty of 15 to life if there is a conviction. The investigation focused on the first victim on February 11th of 2015, and the last one November 20th of 2018.
The investigation revealed probable cause linking 25 deaths that were a direct result of unknown therapeutic doses of drugs, including fentanyl, that Dr. William Scott Usel ordered to be administered in excess of medical standards. On December 7th, 2018, the homicide cold case received information indicating numerous patients had died while being treated by Dr. William Scott Usel during the course of his employment at Mount Carmel Health. Detectives began investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of at least 35 patients. And this has been the primary driver of the cold case homicide unit for the past 7 months.
At least $1 million or in excess of that amount.
All right, thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Good afternoon, counsel.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Richard Blake on behalf of Dr. William Usel. Your Honor, the misdemeanor with a explosive device was over 25 years ago while Dr. Usel was in college. Since that time, he's been an exemplary citizen in Ohio. He lived in Cleveland, moved to Columbus, where he's lived now with his wife and 2 children. As we all know, the purpose of a bond is not to punish someone. It's to ensure that they show up, to ensure that they do not flee, and to ensure that there's no danger to the community. Mr. O'Brien and I have been in regular communications since the beginning of this year regarding Dr. Usel. Dr. Usel is well aware of what's been going on. He had many chances if he was going to flee, he could have. Several months ago, earlier in the year, we were asked just to ensure that there's no chance of leaving the country. The very next day, Dr. Usel, he surrendered his passport.
I would confirm that fact, Your Honor, that he did, at my request, surrender his passport probably back in January of this year, and he has been aware of the investigation and the nature of the charges at least since last November.
Thank you.
So I think for that prong of the requirement, the risk of flight, if in any case that I've ever seen, is as close to zero as possible. In fact, Dr. Husel self-surrendered this morning. After conversations that Mr. O'Brien and I have had, he's been prepared for it. We've had very frank discussions as to what he's looking at. And he's here, and we're prepared to go to trial. In fact, he wants to clear his name at trial. So he's going nowhere. With regards to a danger to the community, the charges against Dr. Husel involve medical treatment of patients at a hospital. He no longer works at the hospital. He no longer has an active medical license. He no longer has any ability from either the medical license or with the DEA to even get his hands on any type of narcotic to prescribe to anyone, and that's what he has been charged with. There's no evidence whatsoever that he's a danger to anyone. So the actual crimes of what he's been charged with involve his work as a physician, of which you cannot do right now. So there is, again, no danger to the community. So in those two prongs alone, there should be a very small bond for Dr. Husel. In addition to that, we have his family lives here, his wife, two young children, and a house. We've been in, as I say, constant discussion, not constant, but regular discussions with the prosecutor's office. Again, so I asked the court for a substantially lower bond than $1 million. The fact that the media is involved in this matter should not sway the court to say, okay, because we have to do something to satisfy folks.
It won't.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I don't mean to say that it would, but I feel it's my obligation to state the obvious. Dr. Husel is going nowhere. He's a danger to nobody. We would ask for a significantly lower bond. To not exceed $250,000 surety, so that he has the ability to at least, put something up there to ensure that he will show up in court, which he will.
Taking a step backward, does Dr. Husel waive reading of the indictment?
He does, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, enters not guilty pleas to each of the counts?
He does, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And last pretrial services, is there a record?
The possession of explosives in 1996 in today's case.
All right, thank you. All right, Dr. Husel, your not guilty pleas have been accepted. There's a $20,000 recognizance bond, a $1 million surety or appearance bond, a no contact order, and you are to surrender your passport or other travel documents. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.